They say that the enemy of adventure is planning, or at least they do in my world. And this trip came about by complete chance, and I'm guessing that's why, probably the main reason why I jumped on it like I did. I was in contact with a lad on one of the Der-Chantecoq Facebook groups. They've got a couple of groups that people post pictures now and again and stuff. And of course, because it's so like in the upper echelons of secret fishing to most, like very little actually gets posted, but you keep your eye on it now and again, you see the odd catch that people post. Now it's worth mentioning straight off that although it's the biggest man-made reservoir in France, over 12,000 acres of water when it's full up, it really is quite a sight to behold. But in more recent times, back in the day, it was a bit of a free-for-all, you know, when there were lots of fish in there. These days, it's very different. Following the huge fish kill 20 odd years ago now, they gradually restocked it, and it has produced some of the biggest wild carp in the world. And that makes it a very desirable target. But like all big places like that, and the fact that now it is commercial to a lesser or greater extent, you have to book swims. Booking swims on the lake has become very difficult as more and more people have shown an interest in fishing there, naturally. So when you get faced with an opportunity to get a swim, a bit like Rainbow Lake. Rainbow Lake was very similar, you know, everybody wanted to go to Rainbow Lake, huge fish in the lake, not many swims, and a great demand for those swims. So if somebody offered you a swim at Rainbow, even if it was a crap swim, you would take it, rip their arm off, because most people just want to get the chance to fish there. And Der-Chantecoq has become very like that. So obviously I keep an eye on the forum and blah, 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 blah. And one of the lads I was chatting to had unfortunately sort of got a bit ill. He had a few swims booked, he'd been going there for several years. And it's the same thing, the more you go there, the more likely you are to be able to book some swims each year. And he'd had a couple of swims booked and just literally couldn't make it, wasn't well enough to make it sadly. And actually advertised it on the forum, does anybody want these swims? One of which was Swim 18, didn't know where Swim 18 was and never knew anything about Swim 18, in August. My old mum, God bless her, she always said to me, you never look a gift horse in the mouth. And that's very true in modern carp fishing. So I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, I'll send you a message on the off chance. Said, look, you know, if it's possible, I'll take it off you. I'll go. I'll transfer you the money. You pay in advance for Shenty. I'll transfer you the money and take the swim over. He came back to me, yeah, no problem. If you want to do it, it's great. Told me a little bit about the swim. Now, Swim 18 is just to the left of a very narrow channel into the entrance of a huge reserve called the Der. Now the Der hasn't got any night fishing swims in. For much of the year you can only go in a boat and day fish. It's vast, probably over 1,000 acres, maybe more, I don't know. But the fish spend an awful lot of time in the late spring and summer in the Der. They spawn in there a lot of the time and they hang about there until the water starts to drop. Now Shanty, for those who don't know, is a water supply reservoir for Paris. And of course, Paris uses a lot of water. So as the summer goes on, the lake starts to drop. And this is the crux of the matter. As the water starts to drop, the fish clearly sense the water disappearing from under them and they start to funnel out through this only one channel, it's about 50 yards wide. And they have to come through that past the water, which is controlled by Swim 18, out into the main lake where they go off for the winter. And on that basis, there's every chance that it can be really prolific at times. In fact, the lad who had the swim booked had sent me a load of pictures of previous trips in the swim and he'd done really well in August. You know, the lake is then starting to drop quite quickly, historically, and the fish funnel out and you can have some good catches. So, yeah, no problem, I'll take that swim. So, managed to take it off him, he contacted the office, swapped the booking over, I paid him the money, we're on. It's the perfect morning for a fishing trip. It's misty and warm. Ah, look at the sun. The sun always shines on the righteous. And we're straight out, no customs. That's good. Oh, contraband Nick. Contraband, contraband. They didn't get me again. Well, bonjour. We are in France. And as is the rules in France, as soon as you get off, un café, un croissant. We cannot, I'll be honest, normally I don't get the time to stop for a coffee and a croissant until I'm flying down the motorway, but we've got a pretty leisurely day today. We're not actually starting fishing till tomorrow where we're headed. So we're gonna have a nice drive down. We've got about, I reckon, 4 hours on the outside to get to where we need to go. And I'll see you in a bit. Bon. Well, here we are, the magnificent Lac du Der, the biggest artificial lake in the whole country of France. It's hot, it's humid, we've had a long drive down and no sleep last night, literally a few hours each, but we're here. And we're here for a week's fishing on this magnificent venue. In fact, right behind me is the swim we're going to be fishing for the week, a swim called La Brèche, a very famous swim with good reason, because off this side of me, you've got I don't know how many thousand acres of what they call the Veau d'Or. This is one of several big reserves where the fish flood in to spawn and spend the summer feasting. And then what happens on this lake is the water starts to drop about August. It starts to drop and it drops all the way through till October. And whatever happens first, either the fishing runs out or the lake's shut because the water level hits a certain level. But we are here at prime time. The Veau d'Or is starting to slowly ebb out, which means all these fish are going to migrate into the main basin for their autumn feeding. And we are here at literally the best time to be here. This swim can be really good, I've been told. It was actually booked by a friend of mine, Tom. Tom, if you're watching, I doubt if you are, but if you are, mate, thanks very much. You know, they say never look a gift horse in the mouth, and if it wasn't for Tom, we wouldn't be here. He was unwell, sadly, not well enough to make it, so I've taken over the swim for him. And then, like I said, Tom, if you're watching, I'll try and repay the favour at some point in the future. But yeah, we're here, Veau d'Or out there, water's dropping, fish have got to come through this very narrow channel, and this is the deeper end of the lake. Like, there's fish about. As we walked up one road just off this, just literally out here, 20 yards out. So we know there's fish about. It's a bloody good area, a bloody good time of year. Let's give it our best shot. Now, logistically, there's only a very small handful of the night swims on the lake that you can park nearby. And that means that kit-wise, it's a big, you know, there's a lot of kit required for a simple week's fishing. We could have parked the van by the Maison de Pêche near the port of Giffamont, which is basically on the other side of the lake and requires I would have said probably a 5-kilometre tow with all the boats and all the kit across to the swim in question, which is fine when it's calm, flat. If there's big weather, it's not fine at all, it's bloody dangerous. Or we could have parked a little bit closer to the swim at a place called La Brèche, like a big viewpoint on the lake where lots of people get lots of campers there in the summer, caravanners and stuff. But La Brèche is very difficult because there's been lots of problems there with theft, particularly for the anglers. You know, people that leave vans there often get them broken into. It's just that part of France, it's quite rural, so anything left is at risk. So we decided we would park at La Brèche, try and leave the van near some camper vans and whatnot and hope that all would be well. But we still had a long tow from there with all the kit. Fishing on the lake is never easy. It doesn't matter which swim you got, it's always a massive deal. 3 hours sleep, drove across France, and now I feel like someone's beating me with a fucking bat. But there's no rest for the wicked. You don't do your shit, you don't catch fuck all. That's just how this is. So unfortunately, you got to suck it up, be a man and get on with it. Let's get on with it. Like, Chantecoq is renowned for requiring full kit. And when I say full kit, we're talking multiple boats, lots and lots of batteries. Now, you can only use electric outboards on the lake. There's no petrol outboards allowed. So you need your electric outboards, you need all of the battery power to last you the week, as well as you're traveling to and from the parking. Now that doesn't sound like a big deal, but depending on where you are on the lake, you know, you can literally use half a dozen batteries to get to and from your swim. That's the distances we're talking. 12,000 acre lake, I think it's something like 50 miles around the circumference. So cutting across, you know, quite a few of those journeys can be like 7, 8, 9, 10 kilometres, you know, big tows. Easy at dawn when it's flat calm, very, very difficult at any other time with even a modicum of wind. You know, what a 10 mile or 15 mile an hour wind fishing normally is not an issue, but on a lake like that, it can be a massive issue. Because of the sheer amount of kit you need to take. So you need lots of boats, lots of battery power, you've got to keep your food cold. You know, all these things, like it means in the end, like we took a big transit van and it is loaded to the rafters for 2 people. It's a palaver, mate, isn't it? Yeah. People think, oh, another week in France, lovely times, was it? Well, actually, no, it wasn't. It was hard work. It's like, if you went on a para boot camp, it'd be like a fucking holiday to me. Do you know what I mean? Nearly 53 years old, this is not the game for an old man. If I was 23 again, the trouble is I still think I'm 23. By the time I get over there tonight, you'll be, Nick, Nick, are you gonna set up? Maybe in the morning. And there we are, we're out in the pond mush. What we'll do is we'll have a little fly past the tower on the way in and just see what the crack is, do you know what I mean? Because like, obviously I've been told the swim can be really good. And I'm told that this is the first week of the year that this swim is booked, because when the water's any higher, there is nowhere to set up. It's literally flooded forest. And this is the thing, you know, half these swims, they're either flooded in the spring so they're not open, or they dry out in the autumn and they shut them early. So a lot of these swims only get 6, 8 weeks a year. And when you've got like half the serious carp anglers of Europe desperate to come here and fish for these giant carp and just experience this place because it's so fucking spellbinding, you know, there's a very slim window of opportunity, and an even slimmer window of opportunity to get a swim. Like, so we've been very, very fortunate. And I'm just going to enjoy it because it is this place is magnificent. There's big skies, big weather, big sunsets, everything's tuned up to the maximum. So yeah, we're buzzing. We're going to head over to our swim. And basically we won't be fishing tonight. We're going to make ourselves comfortable. We're not due to start fishing till tomorrow, so we're not cheats. We're just going to get ourselves comfortable, make camp, get everything in it, you know, where it should be. Get the rods out maybe later, have a little barbecue or a croque monsieur. I don't even know if I can muster a barbecue, Tom, I don't know about you. Okay. But I think probably a croque monsieur and a couple of cold drinks and an early night. I'll be up with the lark and getting them rods out, that's for sure. Mate, she's a vast old bit of water. And beautiful when it's like this, you know, absolutely stunning. But make no mistake, she can be a cruel mistress if the weather blows up here. You know, I was in a big storm with Joe last year on another reservoir in France, you know, tiny little place compared to this, and we got battered. Well, you can imagine if a big storm comes across here while we're here, like, you're in trouble. There's no two ways about it. You've got to make sure everything is absolutely nailed down or it's just going to be gone. There's one bubbling in front of us. Well, it looks nice, mate, doesn't it? There's your post, look. Post 18. It's hard not to smile, isn't it? Look at it, it's magnificent. It's one of the best views you could ever imagine when you're carp fishing, isn't it? And I've got to be honest, like if I was to lay down now, I would be out cold in the blink of an eye. I am exhausted. We had about 3 hours kip, long drive, hot day, doing all the looking around, the shopping and getting everything sorted, the licenses. It's been testing, and then we had to blow the boats up, load all this massive mountain of kit, because when you come out to these swims, you're here for a week. Like you have to bring everything with you. And I'm not really used to that often. I like to go to the shops and stuff, but not here. Like, it's not in the remit. Like you've got to come here and you've got to be prepared to sit here for the week. And yeah, it just looks amazing, doesn't it? The mozzies are starting to bite us. We're both exhausted, but if you have a look around, it looks like we've been here for a week already. Like we are set up lovely, like proper professionals. So what we're going to do is we've had a croque monsieur, of course we have, and they were superb. When you're tired and hungry, like there's nothing better than a croque monsieur. And I've got a tin of Diet Coke. We were going to do a barbie, but we're both just too exhausted. So what we're going to do is watch the sun go down and then off to bed, up early, get the rod sorted. I'm not fishing tonight. We're not actually even meant to be fishing till tomorrow. So we're going to do the sensible thing, stick by the rules, get some kip. Oh, morning. I've got to be honest, it was tough to get up this morning. I think Tom felt the same. It was a lovely night. I fell asleep to the drone of mosquitoes. There must have been a billion of them above my head. And it wasn't even a drone, it was a whine. Do you know what I mean? That sort of whine where you can't sleep because there's that many of them around you. But once I was inside the tent, it was fine. It was warm. You can see I've got the Gandol fat on already. It's because it's going to be 30 degrees today. So after a couple of coffees to fortify us, ready for the day ahead, it's set the rods up time. It's very relaxed, isn't it? We're having a very relaxed start. There is literally no point in killing yourself too early in the trip. I've learned that from bitter experience many times over the years. So yeah, anyway, back to the rig rubbish. 30 pound fluorocarbon, 10 metres of it to 40 pound braid, 8 strand braid, which is what we use for towing, long, taking the rods a long distance. Straight down to a lead clip, nothing more. I've got a lead drill bullet a few feet behind the actual lead arrangement with a rubber stop to keep it on the line. Like really simple, honestly. It's like, we call it codding because it's like a bit like industrial carping, do you know what I mean? Big hook, strong line, no room for error, and just overrate everything because it's snaggy and the fish can possibly be, you know, enormous. You just have to overrate everything. You know, if you get a bite, you're in your bed, you hear a bleep, you look out, the rod's folded round, the fish is 300 yards up the bank where you've hooked it. Like the last thing you want is light line and smaller hooks. There's so much that can go wrong in this fishing. And when you do it, and believe me, I've done it for a long time, you make the mistakes, you make the mistakes, you make the mistakes, and even thick people like me learn from the mistakes in the end, do you know what I mean? So super strong right the way through to the rig, really simple rig. I'm not going to mess about. There's lots of rudd in front of us and roach and stuff, giant they are. And I know they love colour, but I also know that you know, anything smaller than an industrial rig with a really big hook on, they hook themselves. And quite often they won't shake the lead off unless they're really big. You know, you've got a 10-ounce lead on because of the distances involved, and you can imagine, couldn't you, if you had a small rudd of a pound or something, you probably wouldn't even know you had him on the end. So big hook baits, big gap on the hair, massive hook. You know, you do everything in your power to sort of stop that sort of thing happening. Because it's such a distance to put a rod out. When you actually get taken out by something like that, or they shake a lead off at that sort of range and don't hook themselves, it's a massive palaver. You ain't just reeling it in and flicking it back out again, do you know what I mean? You've got to go out to it, fucking get it all back on, back in, sort it all out, then go back out. It's a nightmare. And that's the reason that we carry a tub in the boat all the time with that, you know, a load of leads, some hook baits, a couple of baity needles, a few tied rigs and stuff. Because when you go out anything over a couple of 100 yards and something's gone wrong, you don't want to be coming a couple of 100 yards back and then having to go a couple of 100 yards back out to drop a rig, like, because it's just, the logistics make it impossible. Like, you couldn't possibly carry enough batteries for the week to do that. So everything's done with the intention of not having to mess about, do you know what I mean? So there you go. Really robust, thick 30 pound fluorocarbon. I've used this all over France, all over the world, where there's wood and rocks and all that sort of stuff. It's very good. It's clear, obviously. The water's very clear. We do everything in our power, even though the fish I wouldn't call them naive, because they're not. They're fished for every day of the year, more or less. But we keep it subtle but strong. Well, it's sort of early afternoon now, the rods are out finally. I got one rod out this morning straight away, and then I looked down to where I was fishing off the tower, and there was a bloke moored up right over where you want to put the rods, like rods everywhere, you know, typical pêcheur. You can't, this is the thing, like, it's very easy to want to shout and holler and wave your fist like, you don't know I'm here. When I'm out there in the boat, I can't see my swim. I can barely, I've got to put a sight marker so I can see where the rods are for when I'm coming back. Otherwise you just cause yourself loads of problems, especially as I'm fishing all my rods at a tight angle down the margin, 200 yards or 300 yards, whatever it is. That makes it real tricky coming back, you know, with a line. But more so when you get a bite, you have to consider really carefully how you go out in the boat so you don't prop any other lines. Anyway, the rods are out, of course, standard. What you got to remember again, and something else I haven't mentioned, it's August, it's the French holidays. Like, everybody is on holiday here. There's been electric boats and pedalos and kayakers, and of course I watched a couple of kayakers coming down the lake spinning, you know, and I just knew they go straight for that tower. And I said to Tom, they're going to have me, and sure enough, one of them had me within about 2 minutes. I got 3 lines going down at a tight angle, and he's here casting back towards the tower, you know, don't you? Even though my hook baits are on the bottom and a lot of the lines on the bottom, they're jigging, you know, they're jigging like that along the bottom, trying to catch zander and perch and stuff. And of course it's just like, it would be harder for him not to catch your line than catch it. So anyway, I whistled him up and he was like, oh, okay, like, just dumps it. I whacked it and I thought, you can't leave it after that's happened, can you? So I went out there and it was about 30 yards from where I'd cast it with a massive ball of weed on it. But what I did notice when I was out there was just like, the reason that he fished there was because they've all got little echo sounders and it was just black with fish. Where I've put that new red bait out there, it just sent everything absolutely wild. Like, I made the mistake. Tom crumbed up like 5 Kia bait into crumbs. I thought I'll put a few big handfuls of crumb with me boilies and a few nuts, and that was a huge mistake. But luckily, thanks to that kayaker, I found it out immediately, because obviously when he picked me up, I went out to redo it and I picked the rig up, and like, the bait had literally been eaten away. Mixture of crayfish and small stuff, I expect. But it just showed me that, like, I've got to change my approach. I'm going to fish more often than not, I think, tigers on the hair and bait up with the boilies around it, because the life is incredible. Like, I can't impress it upon you enough. Like, there is so many mouths out there, giant rudd jumping all the time, lots of crayfish. Like, it's just going off out there. And really, you want to dull it down a bit rather than make it more attractive, if that makes sense. So anyway, the rods are out. I got picked up once. I've had a couple of other people, a couple of near misses and that, but listen, this is the nature of the beast. You can't get angry about it, and as frustrating as it is that when you get picked up you've got to go all that way out and all that way back again, it's just, that's how it is. Like, you have to grin and bear it and laugh a bit. I think you know, it's very busy, it's warm, it's not going to be as nice tomorrow, and a bit of rain and stuff, which is better for us obviously, for the fishing, and it might keep a lot of them away. But I think because there's a slipway past where the tower to, you know, on the other bank there's a slipway, and quite a few little boats and kayaks launch there, so the first port of call is that tower. You know, they go straight to it. It's like a magnet to them. So I'm hoping that overnight the rods will stay in and there'll be no problem and I'll get a bite, if there's any carp about, that is. But the wind's picked up in our favour. It's blowing southwest now. It's looking real nice. We had a nice bit of breakfast, a few coffees. It's been a really good day. And actually, despite everything going on and how frantic it is out there, it's very relaxing too. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it. You've got you can never tire of that view. It's immense. There's always something to look at, always something to photograph, always something to film. Like, Tom mentioned earlier, you run out of things to film quite often and things to take pictures of. But here, like, we'll be wandering around all week with a camera. There's always something going on, whether it's like the huge flocks of cormorants coming through, or the massive rudd jumping in the edge of an evening, and the stuff chasing fry. Like, it's just mega, just a mega place. And if we can get a couple of carp, well, then it'd just be perfect, wouldn't it? But to be honest with you, it's looking good. This is the first week this year that this swim has been fished. Like I said, not all the swims are open all year. Some open late, some close early because of the nature of the fishing and the way the water drops. So this is the first year, like, there wasn't anybody in here this week, and as opposed to the rest of Chantecoq, it's huge. When you're in most of the swims, you're looking at open water. And even if there's somebody been in there the week before you, there's still lots of area to be fishing, Whereas this swim, everybody that would come in here would tow them down towards that tower. That's the focal point. And if there'd have been people in here last week, you don't know what bait's out there and how much disturbance and what's been caught. But like, it's lovely to come into a fresh swim. It's fresh, no one's been in here. And there's every chance for a few bites, I reckon. Now, obviously, before I went, you on that sort of fishing, that sort of big water fishing, you roll with the hand you are dealt, as in life, you just get on with it. I'd looked intently in the run up to the trip, and it was looking classic August in France weather, doldrums weather. Not much wind, incredibly hot, and that can be testing on its own in many ways. You're sat there basically camping. Big pit weather or big reservoir weather is all about the climatic conditions. If you get wind and you get rain, you get carp. If you don't, it can be testing in the extreme, and I mean testing it in the extreme. And I'd looked at the weather in the run-up, and it was going to be hot. I knew that, we knew that, but you're still gambling that if that water level is dropping at any rate, those fish will be coming out. And regardless of the conditions, if you've got fish very near to you or passing you, you can still catch the odd one. That's why we do it. They're big prizes, and you just never know. But the joy is in the finding out always. We had hot weather forecast for, I think, the first 4 days of the trip, and then from then on it was a little bit up in the air. Nothing was really sure. 1 or 2 or 3 things could have happened, but there was big weather to the south of us. Spain was getting really bad storms at the time, and there was every chance that was going to come up through France and get to us. At least we hope so. You always hope for big weather until it actually gets to you, don't you? And then, when faced with really big weather, that can be incredibly testing on its own. Not just because of the big weather, but then you've got, big wide expanses of water, big wind, big rain. It can be super dangerous. The fishing can be good, that's true. But also, it's, again, logistically, just keeping rods in the water can be a massive deal. But you go prepared for all eventualities, don't you? Making ourselves a little fire pit for tomorrow. We've just had a look at the weather, and it's looking good. It's not going to be as warm, and tonight we've got rain coming in, midnight-ish, and then more rain in the morning about 4 o'clock. Not masses, but enough to cool it off. Better feeding conditions for the fish for sure. And I'm not going to touch them tonight. I've got away with being picked up this afternoon, narrowly I might add. Narrowly, I keep running out. It's more French, they're right over you, because they can see all the fish on the sounder, all the rudd and all the stuff attracted by the bait, right? And as soon as they see it, they're on you, and of course they pick your lines up, they're jigging and stuff. But I've narrowly escaped it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave those rods. I'm not going to mess them about tonight. The weather's coming in now anyway, it's starting to change, there's a bit of a fresher feel. Still warm at the minute, but it's starting to freshen up a bit. We're going to make the little fire pit while we're sitting around waiting for the cob to warm up. We've lit the cob. Make a little fire pit, and I'm going to gather a little bit of driftwood, firewood for tomorrow, and just cover it over. So look, if it does rain through the day tomorrow, which is forecast big thunderstorms midday, we'll have some wood for tomorrow evening to have our little fire, sit and have our entente cordiale with a bottle of wine. Lovely. These all look like perfectly burnables to me. Very unfortunate. I say unfortunate, you can never be unhappy with nice tench, can you? But we were just sat there, I'm just eating a big steak and wedges, drunk a bottle of wine, having a couple of fags, looking at the weather rolling in, thinking, is there a chance, isn't there a chance? And one of the rods whacked over and I said, well, that's a bite. But it was Mr. Tench, not what we're after. But I had a couple of bangs on that rod today. A couple of times we sat here and seen the rod clatter over. There's a big weed bed in front of where I dropped that rig. If anything, I'm going to come a little bit lefter when the weed sort of tapers away, I think. And before it's dark, I might as well get out there and drop it again now. But anyway, it was a bit of excitement, wasn't it? Give me a bit. We were sitting here thinking, God, doesn't it look good? Like proper carp weather all of a sudden, do you know what I mean? And then while over it goes, and I was, you know, it could easily been a carp, but it wasn't. So let's get the rod back out and see if we can actually get a carp. Yeah? Yeah, like as I went over the weed, there was a couple of big stripes, which is fish coming up away from the bottom, usually rudd and stuff. But there was a few big red through the centre, which means density. Like, I'm guessing they're probably cats. There's lots of cats in here. Like, I ate catfish with a passion, but it's the nature of the beast. If you want to fish here, I've got to do that boat before it fills up with water in the wind. That's it, she's done, boy. It's the little things, you know what I mean? Even though we've just been out, done all the rods and that, had wine, eaten, like, it's the little things. Forget to put the net in the boat, get a bite in the middle of the night, all half awake and excited, and you jump in the boat and get out there and realise you've got no net. And I've done that more than once in my lifetime. And as you get older, you get a little bit more methodical, don't you? So I make sure everything is ready. There's rigs in the boat, there's leads in the boat, there's scissors in the boat, there's a lighter in the boat, there's a net in the boat. When we watch the big ones, the big shoals of them, like they come down the wind. That was interesting, wasn't it? Big whack on the tip, moved the lead a bit. But because I'm fishing over a big weed bed there, you can never be sure whether that was a bite or not. I've had some funny occurrences on that rod. You go out, it goes 3 foot, 2 foot, and then big crest of weed, and then it drops lovely flat 10 foot behind it. And of course I'm on the lovely flat 10 foot behind it. But even tightening the braid up, I guess there's still a bit of a, between the fluorocarbon leader and the actual weed bed, I think that, you know, it's off the bottom a bit. but there's been a lot going on out there. I had a bite there last night at 2 in the morning or something. Again, exactly like that, and I thought, you know, I tightened it up, went back to bed, and an hour later it ripped off. And on whatever it was, I lost it. But I'm guessing it probably wasn't a carp. There's been lots and lots of fish here. Like, our bait is so attractive, it's actually counterproductive. I know that sounds ridiculous. But when you've got such a massive head of nuisance fish, and we're not talking these sort of size, we're talking 3, 4, 5 pound plus rudd and roach. They're enormous. You see them showing out there and you think, well, that must have been a carp. Of course it's not, it's a bloody great rudd. And when I got picked up by the kayaker, it was a blessing in disguise yesterday, because when I went out there and lifted the rod up, it dragged it, messing around with his lure and stuff. But the bait was already whittled down and like really heavily marked by crayfish. Now, so that changes things a bit, you know. And so this morning, and the old cormorants had turned up, like this morning, I had to redo the rods after the rain and stuff and having a bite, and there was no baits on any of them except the one that had the tigers on. So I've changed them now. I've got big double hard baits, bottom baits on one rod, and big tigers, and more industrial rigs, you know, stiff nylon, 20 pound fluorocarbon or 25 pound camsoft straight through, including the hair, because all that happens is they roll them about on the bottom, and at some point they end up hooking the actual hair itself or folding a bait over it. They just wrecking the rigs. Now, I'm used to that. Fishing in the south of France, that's a prerequisite. You know, you can't fish English style rigs, and I've been told recently by plenty of people, oh no problem at all. But at the moment it is a problem, a massive problem. So first night's done, and it was a very interesting first night because we've learnt an awful lot. I've now stripped back the bait in, we've stopped putting crumb and stuff like that. It's an absolutely pointless, a waste of time. All you're doing is attracting biblical amounts of nuisance species onto your spot, which in turn probably attracts the catfish. And every time a pêcheur goes over the spot as they come through from the vue d'oeil, they see the sounder alive with fish, and ooh, and they start jigging. Oh, it's just madness. You can imagine, can't you? We're in August, the French holidays. Now, the local pêcheurs who fish here a lot, they know where the carp anglers fish. They're well aware of them, like they've dealt with them before many times. But the holiday makers don't, and they literally come straight out to this point here and think, oh, this looks good, and start putting spinners everywhere, and they just pick you up. Hopefully, the weather today is a bit duller and a bit cooler, and it's going to keep them away, because, you know, when it's a bit like this, it can be very dangerous out here and turn on a sixpence. And as you can't really see, but yesterday it was alive with people. Today there's hardly anyone out, just the hardcore pêcheurs, like, you know. So the rods are redone, stiff hook links with stiff airs, like, you know, industrial carp fishing. Big tigers on the, when you look at the rig, you think, Jesus, would I ever get a bite on that? Of course you would. Caught tench on it yesterday, and I've had several other bites on them since, like, you know, like twangles and stuff. So yeah, we're going to just stick it out today. It's looking good. There's no pêcheurs about, no holiday makers. Hopefully I'll be able to keep the rods in position. But even the baits that we dropped in the edge, by this morning, they were whittled down massively, even by the very small roach and stuff in the edge. So it says to me, I've learnt an awful lot first night. I've learnt that there's a lot of stuff I can't put out. I'm sticking to just boilies. I'm spreading the boilies a lot wider, so not to try and focus anything on one spot, because it's definitely counterproductive. So yeah, big thick rigs, double tigers, boilies spread liberally around. It's going to be the only way to fish this week. I want to talk, but it's too good and too hot. Fucking hell, mate. That was much needed. It's been hard work last 24 hours. Very hard work. It's amazing how tiring it is. But I got up this morning and like me and Tom were like zombies. I was like, you wiped out? He was like, yeah, I'm wiped out. Like all night, fucking, it was hot in the bivvies, you know, humid. We knew rain was coming, which always makes it warmer, doesn't it? There's fish splashing everywhere and like, but it was dark. When I went out for that bite at bloody 2:30 or whatever it was, I could not even see the swim to come back. like most of my rods are fishing down to the right, and I've got what we call sight boards, special reflective tape that as soon as you put a torch on it, you can see it from hundreds and hundreds of yards. But they're looking down that way, so I'm looking back at the swim. I couldn't see anything. I've got a really good head torch, a bright one, 1000 lumen. I could not see anything. Spectacularly dark. But yeah, since then, it just seems to be that rod that I'm getting pulls on. And like I said, that's near weed. The spot down the end is a hell of a feature, you know, with the gap and the traffic of fish coming out as the water drops. But, you know, for actual fish feeding and good spots to actually fish, it's out in front of me almost. Like, there's a huge bed of weed, and behind that's beautiful. And like, I don't know, I think if I'm going to get a bite off a carp, it's going to be on that rod at the moment. Right, well, the weather's coming in again. Apparently this afternoon we've got 30-mile-an-hour gusts, and the biggest thing for me fishing down along the margin with a facing wind into the bank is keeping the lines apart. Like this morning, where we'd had loads of big beds of algae floating in on the wind yesterday, of course they've hit one line, pushed it into the other line, and then rolled it all up, which, you know, you can imagine. Lucky I didn't get a take on one of those two rods, because I probably would have lost it straight away. Anyway, I went out this morning, managed to separate the lines, and now I've split them up. We've got a real, if Tom can pan round and show you, you've probably seen it, but there is a mooring pole from one of the harbours, obviously in the storms over the winter or whenever, has broke off and come all the way across the lake. It's like a huge steel tube about 20 foot long, right on the line where my lines have got to go through. Actually, it's done me a favour, because now I've got one this side of that steel tube and one that side. The tube itself is pretty clean, it's not encrusted with mussels or anything, so that should keep my lines apart, even with algae coming through in a big wind. These two are obviously out in the lake more, and they're all right, but like those two were a massive issue. Anyway, we think we've rectified that now. I've definitely rectified all the silliness, like I've got stiff rigs, tigers on every rod. I've got a couple of very hard dried manila on one, like 220 millers on one. But we're still feeling our way in, remember? But again, I've just had a take on that left-hand rod. I was sat there, I heard the bell jangling. I was sat there and I thought, oh, it's a carp. Typically Tom weren't here, he'd gone to the van to get some trousers, because his poor sod has been, they've feasted upon him, the mosquitoes. His legs look like pineapples. It's quite amusing. Anyway, I'll just show this tench, because like, if you see the size of the nuts and the gap and the size of the hook I'm using, you know, if I showed you that rig in the UK, like, there's very, very few people, if anybody I know, that would be man enough to cast that out, because it looks outlandishly big. The old tench has eaten the whole lot. The whole lot. Anyway, I'll just show you him, because he's beautiful. He's a beautiful thing. Obviously they live, or they are living, behind this weed bed in front of me. The trouble is, it is the best spot in front of me as well. Like, you've got all this snaggy weed, and that comes to within 2 foot of the surface, and then it sort of ebbs away a bit onto the most beautiful dinner plate. Yellow, flat yellow, rock hard, just behind the weed. You can't not put a rod there, but the trouble is, every time I put a rod there, I get tenched. But I just, you know, I keep upping the boilies, knowing, look, we've got winds coming, picking up again today. If any do come across here, I pretty much guarantee that's the rod that's going to go. The rods down to the channel are lovely, but they're bland. It's stones, the odd stump and stuff, not weedy. And you can imagine it in hot weather, you know, getting around that thing and stuff, around the dam. But at the moment, I'm still super confident on this left-hand rod. I've just been out in the rain and done it again. But I'll just show you this tench, because they're beautiful, like absolutely beautiful things. All are welcome, as they say, especially when they're as beautiful as him, eh? Thank you very much, Mr. Tench. Right, let's get the net back in the boat. I think it's tea time, innit, Tom, or something to eat time. Tonight, at least all of the rods are fishing. I've spoken to one of the English lads who's fishing 2 swims that way. Sounds like he's next door, but he's actually about a mile away. And he's just starting his 2nd week, and he caught 9 last week, him and his mate, which is a bloody nice week, wasn't it? And it was good to speak to him. He just messaged me, oh, were you in 18? I said, yeah. He said, we're drinking wine. So are we. We're having a lovely time. But yeah, they caught 9 in the last week. They had better weather. Before it got hot, when we arrived it was hot, 31 degrees, and obviously since, I don't know, Thursday, they've caught nothing because it warmed up. But now it's looking better again. They're hopeful of a few more. So it was encouraging to hear it. They've had all their fish on jumbo tigers, or most of them. And I suspect we will as well, because it's looking like the only way we're going to be able to keep hook baits out there. I will persevere with the boilies, the big ones, you know. But it seems the rudd and they've been having like problems with the rudd and stuff, and the rudd are enormous. And the tench are big too, you know, you've seen me catch a couple of tench. They're quite happily eating the rigs and that, so it's just a matter of a few carp coming through, I think. And having heard that they've caught a few, I know it's a mile away, but it's near enough's good enough for me. And plus, look, we've got the wind in our face. It's looking really nice. Like, we're only a night in. Tonight I'm feeling double confident. Yeah, we're gonna have a nice glass of wine and something to eat and watch the sunset.
And get the fire going.
And get the fire going. Oh yeah, we're gonna have a fire tonight. Proper lovely, like, I was looking across last night, I had a bite in the night and I couldn't see anything. I said it was so dark. Like, and when I say dark, I mean like, couldn't see anything dark, but I could see a fire in the distance over there where a couple of anglers were sitting around the fire, probably having a bottle of wine. So yeah, we're ready. We've got our fire pit, we've got a little collection of driftwood. We're gonna have a nice little fire tonight. Lovely times. Keep the mozzies at bay, because they are a bugger. Just poor Tom's legs, like I said, they look like pineapples. He had to go back to the van today, which was no mean feat. I tell you, off he went in the boat, gone, just to get some trousers. That'll learn him. Now, as I said initially, the whole premise of the trip, the whole decision to do it in the first place was based on that channel and the fact that as the water level drops through the summer, all those fish slowly start to trickle out of the Helleur. But what I hadn't taken into consideration is, it's funny how things turn out, but France had a really, like we had, a ridiculous amount of rain through the spring. Now, your 12,000 acres full was probably far over that. You know, it was up in the trees, much higher than I'd ever known it before. And the water level wasn't dropping. Rather than dropping up to a foot a week, you know, or 6 to 8 inches a week, that wasn't happening. So when I got into the swim, the water level was still absolutely chock full. It hadn't even started to drop. Now, all that meant was I was faced with just fishing for what was in front of me. The traffic of fish coming out the Helleur simply wasn't going to be happening. And the fish weren't coming out the Helleur. I caught everything that was in front of me. I'm absolutely convinced of that. I had, in my eyes, the very best bait that I could have taken. An active bait, you know, really, really attractive. Like, I've said it before, it can almost be too attractive, if that makes sense to you. Because everything was coming in, but except the carp. The reason the carp hadn't come in is because they simply weren't there. They were still probably 2 miles behind me up in the snags in the Helleur. And that meant that I was sort of faced, like you are on those sort of trips, often there is no room to move. You can't move, there's nowhere to move to. So you either go day fishing, which means you have to leave the kit, loads of boats with just day kit, and venture off and try and find something to fish for, or you sit tight. Now, after 3 or 4 days of catching tench and roach and what have you, it was clear, with no carp coming through at all, that I was going to spend a lovely week sat there, and it was a lovely week in a beautiful swim with the most incredible vista, as you can see, but there were no carp to be caught. So a change or a move was in order. We're drinking wine. Of course we are. We're also drinking wine because not a lot going on. We've been sat here now. When did we start? We started Friday mid-ish day. It's now Sunday afternoon. I don't think we've spoken to you since yesterday. What's happened since yesterday? I caught a big tench, a real big tench. Double figure jobby, but massive, you know, not fat and full for its size, you know, just giant. If they had the body shape and you get them in the spring and that, I would imagine they're 20 pounders, some of them. But yeah, it was probably a double. And for the first time I thought, oh, this could be a carp, you know, it was a proper take. It actually walloped round and ripped off. But yeah, it was Mr. Tench. And we went through last night again, put all the rods out absolutely perfectly. Nothing. No sign of carp, no carp jumping, no nothing. Lots of rudd and tench rolling. Just very, very quiet. You know, we're 3 days, I'd call it 3 days in, with a facing wind each day, some sort of wind, some rain and that as well, bit low pressure come through. Nothing. They're not here. Are they going to turn up here? Oh, it's a big if, isn't it? It's the first time this year that this swim's been open. You know, it's on the end of the prevailing winds, gets the westerlies and the southwesterlies. We've had a little bit of each. And you think that without pressure and that, it's nice and shallow out here, plenty of weed beds, that there would be carp. If there's going to be a carp about, there'd be about. As soon as we got it, we should have caught, if there'd have been carp here, we'd have caught them in the first probably 12 to 24 hours. The spots are academic out here. You've only got the tower, you know, your swim. We've got people from the swim to the left coming out almost level with us out in front. So we can't go left, we can't really go out long, and there's nothing out there anyway for this time of year. So we're fishing to what we've got. We've got the weed beds across the front of the swim, got a big flanker bank here, lovely. Crystal clear down to about 7 foot, then the weed starts, and it's really heavy weed as well. And then it clears, drops into 10 foot. It's just absolutely archetypal. If they were about, I'd have caught them there. As soon as I put rods there, I'll get tench straight away. We've caught no carp, they're not about. Are any going to be about? Oh, it's a big if, innit? And we're filming, you know, you can watch us cook lovely dinners and live like kings every day, drinking wine and living the dream. But I can't sit here doing nothing. And this is the rub with this thing. You are rolling the dice. You know, it is the biggest pay lake in Europe. Of that, there is no doubt. And yes, you can fish in the days. And yeah, you could go looking. But bear in mind, all of the night swims are taken. They all control a big area. You'd be like dipping in and out between people and just looking around in the shallow bays. I don't think so. I don't think we've got it in us to film it and to do that. It's hard enough to do that just with a couple of you in boats going off looking and stuff. To try and rig it together to film it, and like, it's just impossible. It would be a debacle. So what we're going to do? Well, what do I always do when nothing's happening? I can sit there for a bit. Do you know what I mean? I can sit there. I'll do me bird. But the truth is, they're not here. And if I'm honest, I don't think they're going to get here. If they're not here by now with the weather we've had in the first 3 days, it's only going to get slowly warmer and slowly less good weather. I think we're going looking elsewhere. We're going to pack up in the morning if nothing happens tonight. And I'll be honest, I don't think it's going to. We've packed up loads of stuff today. We're going to have a nice barbecue this evening. Get the old cob on, have something lovely to eat. Finish this bottle of wine. I'm going to literally wait until last light to put the rods out because I've been picked up again today. There's been, you know, holiday maker pêcheurs in kayaks and belly boats, like literally raking the area around fishing. It looks very very carpy. It looks very fishy. If you're in a boat and there's a tower and a load of rocks and weed, you're going to cast your spinners about, and everybody has. As one boat goes, another one turns up and does the same thing right over my rigs all day. So it's, you're going to get picked up, and sure enough, I've been picked up. So yeah, that part of it is, it's annoying. You don't want to be able to keep your rods in the water, don't you, and fishing, and you just can't here. Like, really, to do that, you've just got to reel in and then put them out on dusk. Fish from dusk till dawn, then reel them in again. And of course, you ain't doing that either, are you? You want your rods in the water. So yeah, every time a buzzer sounds now, rather than anticipation or hope of a bite, it's like, oh God, who's picked me up now? So yeah, I'm not liking that. There's no peace, no fishing peace, as it were. So yeah, we're packing up. We're going to get up in the morning. There is big thunderstorms forecast tomorrow, like really serious ones, red triangle jobbies. there won't be big winds with them, and the winds are going the other way anyway. When the storms come, I think the winds are going northeast or east. We're going to pack up, we're going to go back to the Maison de Pêche over at Giffamont. It's about a half-hour drive away, even though it only looks like it's over there. We're going to go back, see what swims are free on the lake, if there are any swims free, and make a choice. You know, pot luck, just take a chance. You know, fishing, I love chancing fishing. When stuff's nailed on, it's no fun. There's no enjoyment there, and it's definitely not nailed on here. So we're gonna get off, see what swims are available, and drop into something else for a couple of nights. Have a fresh chance, because that's the sort of anglers we are. Can't sit here when there's nothing happening. One last roll of the dice, mate, yeah. And then tomorrow we'll have another roll of the dice, because that's how we roll. Yeah. I told you, mate, it's one of them swims, it's academic. You go out, it's weedy, it's rock hard, then it's weedy again. Like, you go donk. You go a bit deeper, it's weedy, it's rock hard, then it's weedy again, you go donk. And the same out here, you go weed, past the weed, clean, donk. Like, there's nothing to it. Like, literally, if the carp rear, we would have caught whatever was here. And what we've done is, all that was here was tench, and we've caught what was here, you know, 2 or 3 tench. That was it. Now, obviously, with no water level dropping, clearly no carp anywhere near me, and 3 or 4 days left of the trip, I really wanted to move somewhere. Day fishing, really, as nice as it would have been, we had a mountain of kit, but the van was parked in a very dodgy area. You know, we're not just, when you're filming a trip like this, you've got all the logistics of the mountain of kit you need to take just to fish effectively, but you've also got the filming kit. And as nice as it would have been to go off and do a few days day fishing, in doldrum conditions, it was near to pointless, and it would have put everything else that we had to leave in the van at great risk. It actually turned out that week someone did try and break into the van. It wasn't until we got back we realised one of the locks had been jimmied. Thankfully, there was nothing in there for them to steal. Anyway, we phoned the office. Now, there's only a finite amount of swims on the lake for night fishing, and because of the popularity in recent years, those are booked up well in advance. There's very little room for moving. But just by sheer chance, a German angler fishing probably 2 miles to the right of where we were in another big bay had packed up early. The wind that we'd got had been quite strong in the heat, but he'd been battered and like lost his tent and stuff and decided to call it a day and go home. He hadn't caught any carp, but a change is as good as a rest. And I had to face the fact that if I'd sat where I was, as lovely as it was, there was no carp to be caught. So we did what you would do almost anybody would do in my position. It was a massive job. Like, it's not just, oh, we'll throw the rods in the boat and just tootle over there. You know, it's miles away. It's like a whole day packing up, getting back. This is still in 35-degree heat. Getting back to La Brèche, get the van down, pack everything, fold all the boats up, let all the air out, like, you know, basically going home, then move a couple of miles to another swim and start the whole process again, which is what we chose to do. They say timing is everything, and the rain has just started. If you look over there, there's big black downpours coming. And yeah, I've looked at the weather. We got serious thunderstorms today. It's been thundering all night, lightning every few seconds. Meteor shower last night, one of the biggest meteor showers of the year. It was fucking incredible. But of course we just lay there looking up through a mozzie dome, because the mozzies, well, I haven't seen mozzies like that for a while. They destroyed the pair of us, like, really badly. And this morning at first light, clatter, clatter, both my rods to the right went. Big tench, big rud. Like, I just can't keep bait or rigs out there. There's clearly no carp about. and I'm not going to. If I was on my own, would I sit there on my own? If I was on my own with no one else, probably. I'd probably enjoy the rest, like I've had a busy year. But as an angler and as a, you know, as a sponsored angler who's being filmed, like I can't just sit there catching nothing. And I can tell you now, there's a very good chance if I sat there for another week, I wouldn't get one. Fish have been caught down to our left, like round the point in the spawning summer bays, and up to our right in the bays, but not out, no fish out in the main sort of body of water. There's still, obviously, with the warm weather recently, they're still up in these bays, lots of weed, lots of everything. So yeah, we're going to move. We've made a brave decision, a bold decision, keeping an eye on the weather. Look, we've got a little slot to pack up in the morning. We got up, quick coffee, running around like madmen, getting eaten by mosquitoes. But we're back, we've got it all in the van, just as the heavens opened. There is a little bit of justice after all. We're going to get off, we're going to go and do some shopping, have a little look around the lake, go into the office, see if there's any other swims available. At this time of year, I doubt if there's any available on the main basin. We might get one on one of the other basins, but we're going to go and have to see. We were very lucky to get a roll of the dice, so we rolled the dice. It was, I remember it was blisteringly hot, and we had to pack it all up. You know, you're talking 3 boats, all the kit, everything's got to be folded up, long tow back to La Brèche, get the van down, found out the van had been broken into, like all doom and gloom, but luckily not damaged enough that we couldn't carry on. Packed the van, moved down into the big bay, set it all up again, had to go through the motions of finding the spots, all that sort of thing. A huge task. Nothing is an easy task on that lake, especially in, you know, in adverse conditions like we were experiencing. So we moved down, managed to get, it was a very stumpy bay, like your classic Chantecoq of old, lots of, where they flooded the valleys originally, they cut the trees down, but they just cut them down at base level, left big stumps everywhere. Out in front of us was just a stump forest. Like, those places are where, you know, you can make or break a trip, but they can also cost you everything. You know, the crayfish are there, there's always lots of food in the stumps, makes it a really interesting bit of fishing. So I got it all sorted, managed to get a couple of spots in a bit clear of stumps, about 100 yards of bank, 300 or 400 yards off to the right of the swim. And we settled in, you know, rolled the dice. The last few days we'll give it our all. Oh, Jesus. Look at that sky, it's going to be a mega storm tonight. Oh, I can't wait for the storm. Can you, Tom? We're going to get a bit of a break in this humidity. I reckon it's about, it feels like 90% humidity. And even with the sun that low in the sky, it is literally, the sweat is pouring off me just sat here. But they say, a change is as good as a rest. And I'm not talking about a change in drinking habits. We're still drinking fantastic wines. We got a Cru de Beaujolais 2021 player. It's looking good tonight. We just had ribeye steak. Life couldn't get much better. And yeah, since I last see you, I have moved swim. You know, I looked at it objectively. I'd been in that swim for 3 days. We'd had a facing wind, good weather, good spots. I was getting regular action off them spots, although not the sort of action I wanted. It was either big tench or pêcheurs picking me up. And yeah, a change is as good as a rest. Well, we've had a change and we weren't getting no rest there. Like every time the rod bleeped, you weren't thinking, oh, is that a bite? You were thinking, oh no, who's picked me up this time? Anyway, we had big rain coming in this morning. We got up double early, packed all the kit up. Managed to get back. I tell you couldn't have written it. We got back to the van just as the heavens opened. You know, we literally just filled the van up with kit just as the heavens opened. We were super lucky, and we went back to the Maison de Pêche to see if there were any swims free. You know, there just simply wasn't any carp where we were. If I hadn't caught one in 3 nights, I weren't catching one. So went back to the Maison de Pêche, and yes, there was a few swims. Only one left on the South Basin, which we went and looked at, and it was a lovely swim at the end of a big long arm. Friends of mine have fished it before and said, you know, it can be a real good one. And it would have meant Tom and I could both fish, which I want. You know, I want Tom to have rods out to have a chance as well, because we're working really hard. And again, like people think, oh, look at him sitting there eating pate on toast and drinking lovely red wine. But we have actually been, look, it is pouring off me. That sun, look, it's just about setting and it's still brutally hot, brutally. So yeah, we had a move. Would you believe it? One of the good pegs on the main base. In fact, there was a few pegs on the main base in still free. But this one is actually a good one. It's got form, and we have got not only the most epic view, but we've also got a massive bit of bank, but very different fishing here. We're literally in the stump forest through this bit. The stump forest all the way through from left to right. You can still get drops in there, and I'm pretty sure there's fish about here. There's been fish caught to the left of here and fish caught to the right of here in this arm, and as far as we're aware, no other fish have been caught. So it was a no-brainer, really. You know, it puts us back in the game. It's been getting the same winds we have, but southwesterly for the last few days. It's stumpy as hell out here, no pêcheurs, thank the Lord. So there's not much chance of getting picked up, so I can actually have a bit of a relax once the rods are out. And yeah, we're covering a massive piece of bank. Tom can fish as well, which is brilliant, because now Tom's buzzed, and you know, it's such hard graft just getting by each day. It's easy for me to say it, and you're sitting there looking at me sat in the sun, like with a bottle of wine and with a mega view of that. But it is brutally hard work to pack up, load the boats, take it all back to the van, pack the van, blow, you know, let the boats down, put them in the, and like, it's like, you don't want to be doing that more than a couple of times a week on this lake. But yeah, we're not going to be moving again. We're here in a prime plot. I'm real hopeful that there's some carp about here. Everything looks great, really does. So we're gonna film this beautiful sunset, sit and enjoy it, finish this bottle of wine, no doubt. And yeah, I'm excited tonight, you know. I've had a few bleeps already and a couple of twangles on the old bells and that. It just feels like a different lake from where we were, let's just put it like that. We're very lucky to have had a chance to even be able to have a move, because it's not usually possible on here. But yeah, what a move, eh? Look at the view, incredible, and look at the size of our swim. I am very happy. Well, good morning. Look at my poor feet. Trench foot imminent, covered in mosquito bites. And wow, what a night. Jesus. We had the most biblical electrical storms last night. Thankfully, the wind with them wasn't too bad. You know, it was bad enough that I was holding on to the bivvy, so was Tom. But we had these massive lightning storms before bedtime, like up to about midnight. And then they fizzled out a bit, and we thought, oh, that was nice. Got some nice footage of some lightning and that, and now we'll have a nice sleep. Hopefully it'll cool it down a bit. Anyway, 2 o'clock came and the behemoth arrived. I had a few spits and spots of rain, and within 2 minutes it was Armageddon. Do you know what I mean? You know what they say on this sort of fishing, it's like fishing by the seaside. You know, you get wet, you get dry again, and that is very much how it is. Like absolutely everything I had last night. I didn't have a door on my bivvy, just a mozzie door, and even though I wasn't faced into the wind, the pressure of the rain was just so intense. It was coming through my mozzie door literally like a shower. My bed was soaked, I was soaked, all my kit was soaked. It was a proper palaver. Like, and I ended up going to bed in a wet sleeping bag, like curled up in a ball trying to keep dry. Anyway, from 30 degrees it dropped it to 20 degrees, so we've had a 10-degree drop. The wind's now sort of light and variable. But what a difference. Sit here now, it's literally lovely again. There's something about this place, it's like soul food, do you know what I mean? Big vistas, big sunsets, meteor showers, massive weather. You know, if this don't make you feel alive and want to fish, then nothing will. But it's testing, do you know what I mean? You can only catch what's in front of you. And to be fair, like after a 10-degree drop last night, I wasn't holding out much hope of any bites. Even if the rigs are still in position and all the baits around them properly, it was pretty rough. The boys up to the left, about a mile or so away, they've caught nothing and seen nothing. And they've been pretty consistent, like they've been getting the odd one. And although they think, you know, their opinion is the fish are coming out of the arms, I'm not so sure. I just think they're still in the arms, you know, that's the thing. We were in a good spot for intercepting fish coming out of the arms. They'd be coming out of that voodoo, and like there's every chance of whacking a few, but that wasn't like, you know, there was no carp there, literally no carp. Loads and loads of other fish, but no carp. So we made a bold decision to move, and we could have gone. There was 2 swims available, I think, or 3, This one on the south basin, which we call the training pool, which is a bit unfair because it's 600 or 700 acres in its own right, but there is a lot more carp in there. And we did see one when we went to have a look, but it was at the bottom of a long bay, and as you know, there was lots of water. But you know, when you come here to do this, you come here to do this, and like doing anything else just seems wrong. So we took this swim, and it's a bloody lovely swim. And as it happens, it's between people that have caught in the last week or so. So you know, you're as close to the action as you're possible to get on a lake like this. Although like action's been a mile that way and a mile that way, you're still in between them. So you have to be, you know, you have to look at it objectively again. There's a very good shout that there'll be a few about. It's nice here. Like I said yesterday, it's stumpy as hell out there. A lot more snaggy. But it also feels a lot more carpy. You know, it's muddy and stumpy, the weeds everywhere. And I can't help but think there will be some carp about. It might have been knocked back for 12 or 24 with all that rain and a 10-degree drop, but man, I'm super hopeful. Like everything about this place keeps you buoyant, do you know what I mean? It can break you, but it can also keep you really buoyed up. It's food for your soul. You sit here in that big weather and you see these magnificent sunsets and you feel the wind on your face and you know you're alive. And like that is everything with these trips. Yeah, you're trying to catch them, like, and we are trying to catch them, make no mistake, but it is in the lap of the gods. You roll a dice coming here, you know, you roll a dice. And yeah, we could go chasing, looking everywhere, but with two of us, it's super impractical. It's very busy, it's the summer season, you don't really want to be leaving your kit and going off fishing for the days. And plus, we need more people to film that sort of shit. You know, it's logistically very difficult. The fishing is what it is, it's academic. You row them out, you find your bits, you drop them down, and then you're just hoping. And you're open. And that's the great thing about this, it gives you faith. You know, you have to have a little bit of faith. You know, in a modern carp scene where everything is over commercialised to the point of where catching one's not good enough, you know, you've got to catch one and then put them out, catch again and catch again and catch again. And that's just not how carp fishing is, certainly not how this carp fishing is. Like, this is soul food. You live in hope. Like, and there's a massive element of chance. And an angler loves a massive element of chance. When something's nailed on, it is no fun. There is no challenge, there is no enjoyment. It leaves you cold. This does not leave you cold, well, unless it's been raining all night. But anyway, we're sat here, we're full of the joys of spring. It's looking awesome. I'm sure if there's a carp about, we will catch a carp, like, you know. But at the moment, it's like every day on the big lake, you know, you sort your shit out, you get your boat tied up again, you redo your rods, you dry your clothes, you sort your camp out. Like, there's a never-ending list of shit to do, but we're embracing it because we love it. A couple of friends of mine turned up from Belgium, Al and Anne, that have been exploring in France. And again, there's something else to bring in because, like, you know, those sort of trips, that sort of entente cordiale and socials with your friends and that are just as important as the fishing. You know, we had lovely food and lovely wine, and in the last 24 hours of that trip, the weather we'd prayed for the whole week actually rolled in. A big storm came up from the south, biblical electrical storm with huge winds, loads of thunder and lightning, you know, absolutely the most incredible scenes. Like, you sat in your bivvy just buzzing, hoping for a rod to go over. And on the very last night, at 4 in the morning, it happened. One of them absolutely lurched over, screamed off in the darkness, and I ran out, and I was about 10 foot above the bank where the rod was, and in my panic, I ran and forgot about the 10-foot drop. Fell straight down into the mud and stumps, twisted my ankle, clawing my way through the mud to get to the rod, which was absolutely ripping, you know. Got out there and it snagged me in the stump. I couldn't believe it, like literally could not believe it. I spent a good half an hour going this way and that round the stump with my pole trying to free the line, but it was no avail, the fish had gone. A bittersweet end to an otherwise amazing week. But that wasn't the end of the story, because I actually had a swim booked a couple of weeks later, and I went out with my friend, John Scully.
Seen anything?
Got any change? Your mate's left me here.
Have you seen out, mate? How many wraps?
22.5
1,000.
And would you believe it, I think on the very first night of that trip I was rewarded with my Der-Chantecoq monster. Lovely times, eh? What a cracker. Big old Chantecoq common. A lovely start to anyone's day, that, isn't it? What a beautiful thing. Whoa, cracker. You got happy, you got to be happy with one of them on a lovely morning, ain't you? Beautiful. What a cracker, eh? Mega cod. Brilliant. There you go. Job done. Oh, the heat, the sun is just dropping, thank the Lord. We've started to see a few clouds in the sky, giving us hope that something's going to happen, rain-wise. But John's just got one. We started seeing them showing a little bit early this evening, down the bottom end. We're just sat here and John's had an almighty take, an almighty ripper. And he landed it in the end after a bit of tussling. Went out there in the boat, but got it. And it's a nice one, biggest one yet. Lovely times. He's a proper Chantecoq, look at that. They're like on a different scale, isn't they?
Oh mate, they're just...
That's a fucking beast. You pick him up, he just looks long and thin, but you know, the fact is he's a 22 kilo, 49 pounder. Let's have a little look at him. He's a cracker, isn't he?
I'd say after 3 days of baking hot sun, sunstroke, couple of arguments, delirium, I'd say that was just reward, wouldn't you?
Yeah, mate, of course it is. You know,
can't even hold them up on that week.
You know the drill, mate. You do your bird, you keep the faith, and you're always rewarded in the end. But it's not an easy road sometimes, is it?
No, not at all.
Wicked, mate. Nice one. We can have a nice barbecue now and a bottle of wine. Well earned.
About time you cooked.
Yeah,
Let's send him on his way.
Wicked, mate.